All right, big transfer portal news over the weekend as Oklahoma quarterback Jackson Arnold, who was in the portal, comes out of the portal, and he finds himself down on the plains in Auburn. Eddie Radosevich, Sooner Scoop, going to join us to talk about that. What is up, Eddie? How are you today?
Gentlemen, good morning. We having fun yet? The college football transfer portal. What a fun time in the sport.
And it comes at a great time, too. Like I just saw Penn State's backup quarterback is hitting the portal. You know, Penn State's got a pretty big game coming up. Right?
I mean,
that guy plays a lot.
he does. And, if Aller was to get hurt,
I know.
Damn, I don't know what number 3 looks like, but that's tricky.
You may find out. So let's start here. Let's start, Eddie, with the urban legend, or maybe settling the urban legend. It has always been said that Brent Venables chose Jackson Arnold over Dylan Gabriel, and that's why Gabriel left. For the record books, how will that transaction go down once everybody has the truth and everything comes out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was a feeling at the end of the year, about a year ago this time, that everybody was kind of ready to move forward with Jackson. I think that going into the bowl game, into the Alamo Bowl, there was, certainly a better feeling around the program than there was now. You were coming off of a 10-win season. It seemed like it was the moment. It was the kind of the time. You had Jeff Lebby leaving. Everything was kind of calmed by the promotion of Seth Luttrell and Joe John Finley as co-offense coordinators. Seth Luttrell would be fired 6 games into the season. And really, truly, to a certain extent, from about August 1, once Jaden Gibson went down with a knee injury, it seemed like Oklahoma didn't get good news on that side of the football. And as it turns out, you see, Dylan Gabriel. I'm sure there's a lot of people from Norman watching the Heisman Trophy presentation on Saturday night, and probably some buyer's remorse with everything that happened. And certainly, it wasn't all Jackson this season that helped Oklahoma or didn't help Oklahoma offensively, but it's certainly a gamble that they took, and it didn't pay off. And now that Jackson's headed down to Auburn, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are watching, not just the September 20th conference opener back in Norman, but certainly we'll be keeping an eye on the happenings down in Norman or in Auburn with Jackson Arnold.
From what you saw from Jackson Arnold, I just said, look, I don't think it was like really a fair barometer. The offensive line gave up 46 sacks. He had 8 different starting combinations. Top 5 receivers were in, out all year long. So, I mean, overall, we didn't have a traditional Oklahoma offense around him. Do you still think there's a lot of upside for Jackson Arnold?
Absolutely. I think that there was a certain sense that, especially coming out of the Alabama win at the end of the season this year, he didn't necessarily tear it up through the air, 9 for 11, but it was what he did with his legs, 131 yards. And like you said, the offense, to just put it point blank period, it was one of the worst offenses Oklahoma's put on a field in the modern era of the program's history. And it wasn't all the quarterback's issue. Obviously, Jackson did not play well against Tennessee, got benched. And, I think that once that happened and they went with Michael Hawkins, that was kind of it for Jackson and Norman. And obviously he came back in, stepped in at the end of the year. There were some bright spots. There were accompanied by some low points, obviously, the way that they lost the game in Columbia. But when it's all said and done, it's hard to know exactly what Jackson was. If he can get in with Hugh Freeze, get some guidance from a quarterback coach or from somebody that knows what they're doing at the quarterback position that they just didn't have in Norman this year, there's still a lot of upside. And I think the best ball, as cliche as it sounds, Jackson Arnold's best ball's in front of him, and it's going to be kind of fun to see how he ingratiates himself to the Auburn offense.
There's always been a belief Auburn was going to be 2 quarterbacks in the portal. There's no way Jackson Arnold would agree for an Auburn destination not being guaranteed the starting spot, right?
I would think so. And, I think that that's what made the Mississippi State overtures so interesting. Obviously, his connection back with Jeff Lebby. But at the end of the day, you thought if he's going to be able to go in and step into an offense and really find some success, I just don't think that was ever going to happen in Starkville. And then when Michael Van Buren enters this portal, I think that there was a lot of people thinking, oh my God, it's going to be as easy as this, that he's just going to end up in Starkville. But yeah, like I would think that Jackson, not necessarily that he's been guaranteed anything, but I think that that's probably the most comfortable position for him to step in and be able to kind of pick up where a lot of people thought he was going to pick up this year in August and September. It was just the injuries and everything that went into Oklahoma this year offensively. It was kind of a disaster to be completely honest.
Yeah, and that's part of it. Eddie Radosevich is with us. Sooner Scoop, part of On 3, also the franchise morning show there in Oklahoma. You can follow him on social media at Eddie_Rado, at Eddie_Rado. So what does this mean for the Sooners moving forward? I mean, it feels like a pretty critical year for Brent Venables coming up after you've said disaster numerous times. Listen, we watched it. It was not great. What does this mean for Oklahoma moving forward?
It's maybe one of the bigger off seasons in the program's recent history, just in terms of you got a head coach and Brent Venables heading into his 4th season. And obviously you win 6 games around here 2 times in 3 years. People aren't happy. He's entering the 2025 season on the hot seat. It's a lot of, I think the word right now is patience, just with kind of wanting to see what Oklahoma's going to do with the quarterback position in the transfer portal. Obviously, a lot of eyes kind of set on the Pacific Northwest and the happenings of John Mateer. I think that there's still an expectation that he enters the portal, maybe even as soon as today.
He just did, Eddie. It's funny you bring that up. Yeah. Well, look at you.
There you go.
Look at you on top of the breaking news. Yeah,
It's going to be a busy day in Norman now as they get ready for the Armed Forces Bowl. A lot easier to talk about the future of what's going to happen than ending the season at 11 a.m. on December 27th in TCU Stadium. Certainly doesn't get people going around here. I'm sure you guys can imagine. But yeah, like it's going to be interesting. Now you're going to have to build that around John Mateer. Obviously, I don't think he's made the announcement that he's going to head to Oklahoma. Certainly would think that that's going to be the next step in this process. And I know that Oklahoma is going to be ready to aggressively pursue him in the transfer portal here over the next 24, 48 hours. And you kind of got to start building that offense. Ben Arbuckle, obviously, with the relationship that he has with the first-year offensive coordinator, I think even going back into that hire, you're hiring a 29-year-old to turn around an offense that was putrid at times this past season. And, to a certain extent, Brent Venables' tenure is now on the heels of not just getting John Mateer, but getting this thing turned around with Ben Arbuckle being a 29-year-old with, obviously highly regarded, but having never done it at a Power 4 level. So it's going to be rather interesting to see how this kind of unfolds for Oklahoma over the next 24 hours.
Let me be fair in the reporting. The report from CBS expected to enter the portal, and then a lot of other people have picked it up. So that's the actual report.
Eddie, with that said, look, and I think it would be so much more fun for us if we knew what the true valuation, what the deals were these guys were getting in NIL. Do you have any idea what the reports were possibly for Jackson Arnold going to Auburn and what Oklahoma would pay a potential quarterback like a John Mateer?
I can't say that I know for a fact, but I think that kind of just with the running of what you're paying or what you're seeing, what's being reported right now in the transfer portal, I think you're probably talking about just a little bit over $1 million, maybe $1.5 million for either Jackson Arnold or John Mateer. I think that would kind of line up with basically what Dylan Gabriel was making when they brought him in. So we'll see. It's going to be rather interesting to see what those numbers are. I think that there's a certain disgusting part of me that would like for those numbers to be published just so people have an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about guys coming in and out of the transfer portal and the numbers that some of these skill position players, the wide receiver position, obviously Oklahoma's going to have to rebuild that entire room with the exodus that it has seemed at the wide receiver position. I think right now you're basically talking about just under $1 million, maybe over $1 million for a wide receiver, and it is what it is. That's kind of the sign of the times, and especially having to retool an offense like Oklahoma's going to have to do. It gets rather expensive, but they got the money, so it'll be interesting to see how this all kind of works out over the next couple weeks.
We were in Atlanta for the SEC championship game, and I cannot tell you the number of Georgia fans, but other fans from other traditional SEC schools on how everybody seemed to be Team Georgia for old school SEC to beat Texas. And really it wasn't because they were new. A lot of the conversation was Texas's schedule, they didn't feel like was a true SEC schedule. Now that you guys have had a year and a half to digest that in Norman, the fan base, not you specifically, but the fan base, and knowing that there's another 12 months of that schedule coming up just flipped around, how angry are Oklahoma fans?
I don't know about angry, but maybe peeved would be the right word. They definitely got their fair share of the SEC schedule. And, when that thing rolls out last Wednesday, and you figure out, okay, where's everybody going to be? And you start out in November going to Knoxville and then get a bye week and you head down to Tuscaloosa. It seems like it's a never ending, just bad news for Oklahoma these days. But yeah, like you look at Texas's schedule compared to Oklahoma's, Texas got a little bit easier ride, but I think in a way, and this, I don't know if it makes anybody around Norman feel better. This is what you signed up for. You kind of knew that it was going to be week to week, some of the, big powerhouses within the SEC and certainly within college football. So it's been a rough go.
We thought Texas signed up for that too, though.
I know. There's definite. I'll put it this way: the final scoreboard in Atlanta, there was not too many people from Norman or Oklahoma City that were feeling bad for Texas and the schedule that they had to play to get there.
I have not. God, I wish I had this in front of me. I saw somebody last night, though, Eddie, pointing out the same thing about basketball, like the number of teams that Texas only has to play the one time.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Alabama, Tennessee, and Auburn are all in that group.
Yeah.
I was at a local establishment on Saturday night after Oklahoma's Bedlam victory in basketball, and just to put it this way, like Porter Moser's first 3 years have not been good. They haven't made the NCAA tournament. Just for him specifically, there's a lot of pressure to get to the NCAA tournament this year, but Porter Moser got a standing ovation on Saturday night when he walked into the bar. And that probably just shows you like where Oklahoma football fans' heads are at. Usually around this time of the year, you're not talking about Oklahoma basketball. I think there are plenty of people in Cleveland County that would be more than ready to talk about an OU basketball team that are surprising, not just the Oklahoma fan base, but maybe some basketball people around the country right now.
Okay, I've got it in front of me. They are at Florida, Texas. That's a tough game now. Florida's really, really good this
Top
year.
10 team.
Especially if Todd Golden's DMing people still.
I don't.
That story went away quickly, by the
how
way.
quick did that die?
Yeah, didn't it?
Yeah, that's weird. By the way, number 9 in the country right now. But Texas, listen to this. They only play these teams once. They host Auburn, they host Tennessee, they host Alabama, and they host Kentucky. I mean,
they only play them once. No return games.
that's the one-timers.
I promise you,
if I'm not mistaken.
It seems like Texas only agreed to come to the league if they got an easy schedule to start off with in football and basketball.
Not too long ago, there were, and Nebraska fans would tell you this, but when they exited the Big 12, I think they were sick and tired of everything in the Big 12 offices running through Austin. I'm sure that you can find some message board posts today from Oklahoma fans that are saying the exact same thing about the way that Texas has kind of been the beneficiary of some of these schedules here recently.
Oh, it'll come back, though. They'll get theirs in the end. Sure. They'll get theirs in the end.
All right, go follow Eddie_Rado, R-A-D-O, Eddie Radosevich, the Sooner Scoop on 3 Sports, also the franchise morning show out there in Oklahoma. Thank you very, very much, Eddie. It's always great talking to you.
Absolutely. Anytime. Headed down to the studio right now. John Mateer, that's certainly big news and just some good news that Oklahoma fans probably needed on this Monday morning.
Yep. All right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Eddie. Take care. Eddie with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.